What's up, my gremlins? If you saw my last video, you know I was talking about working on the torsion bar. I'm going to be working on the truck today, trying to get some stuff done. So let's jump into this and see where things are at. So I realize it's going to be kind of hard to see under here. I have no clue where my light's at this point, so we'll just have to deal. So this cross member here, I'm trying to get this torsion key out. It has been a fight, so now you can watch me struggle for however long this is going to take. So essentially I need to get this torsion key, which is up in the middle of this cross member, dislodged from the torsion bar itself. It's rusted, it's crusted, it's stuck. So I will be using whatever means necessary to try to get this thing done. So right now I am going to be trying to force this cross member back in so I can bolt it in place, because I think with me prying it backwards towards the axle, it has actually pulled the torsion key out of the front, which is weird because it wouldn't go in that direction towards the front of the truck. So what I'm going to do is try to force this back up here with a hammer, crowbar, everything in my power to beat the crap out of this thing and get it to move, bolt it back in place, and then see, now that I've gotten it to shift back, if I can get it to shift forward. So there's going to be a lot of beating, there's going to be a lot of getting mad, there's going to be a lot of pausing, trying to figure out the next step. It took me 2 to 3 hours to get the other key out and back in on the other side, so this is not a fun process, but you'll get to see, learn, watch, get to experience the madness that is trying to fix crap around here. So let's jump into this. Actually, I'm going to grab some hearing protection because I am going to be beating on stuff. Sorry for your tender little baby ears. Those of you at home should, if you're doing stuff like this, probably also wear eye protection. Follow your proper PPE standards. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Trying to see how far off we are to be able to get these holes lined back up, and we've still got a little ways to go. So you can set a bolt in through the top, keep beating it that way, and hopefully that bolt will drop back down through that hole when you get it back to where it needs to be. So my main reason for trying to get this back so I can put a bolt in it is so that I can actually try to put some pressure on this torsion bar to push this torsion bar up, because what's happened is the torsion bar in the key has actually dropped, so it's not going to want to slide out of this channel because this key has dropped, this torsion bar has dropped, so it can't slide out the bottom here because the end of this is shaped like a hexagon. So it tapers down and then it opens back up into a hexagon. Well, it has dropped so low that that hexagon cannot come out this bottom hole here. So I've got to try to get this to where I can bolt it down and then use a jack and a block of wood to push the key and the torsion bar up, and then try to force it out that way. Or however else I'm going to have to figure out how to do it. But at this point, this is never going to drop out of here because this cross member is keeping it there because this torsion bar has dropped. But I can't just jack this up because it'll push the entire thing up that way. So what I may end up doing is going over and bolting up the other side first because that is still loose, and then come back to this side and see if I can't get it to square up and then bolt in. So I'm going to turn you over that direction, general direction, see what I need to do on that side of the truck to get that side bolted back in. So I'm not going to tighten these all the way back up. I'm just making sure they're lined up and putting the bolts back on to kind of hold it in place here. That way I at least know that this side is squared up and where it needs to be for the most part. Not to mention, if I start to jack up the cross member on that side, this side is not also going to tilt and just push up as far, which will allow me to actually move that side however I need to without smashing into the snout of the transfer case there. Alright, didn't even need this sledgehammer. Okay, now back to the business of this side. We need to get this to go forward roughly an inch or two. And what I may end up doing actually is ratchet strapping it to this other cross member and see if I can pull it forward. Now, I have successfully broken 3 ratchet straps just getting the other side apart. So, keep that in mind. Sometimes you're just gonna have to break stuff to get stuff to work. So, as I said in my last video, you can't be afraid of breaking stuff. Kind of, unfortunately, is sometimes a natural progression of success. However you want to measure success. For me, success will be getting this key out. So, it's still not straight in here, but I was able to get a bolt in. We can continue to see if we can get this to push forward from this point. And my guess is going to be no. So, that is still not far enough forward for me to get this next bolt in. Which kind of sucks. But that's how stuff goes, man. Reposition this so we're pulling a little straighter. Let's see what that does. Well, that got us to move a little bit. going to grab my ratchet and stuff and get this snugged down as much as I can to try to keep this from flexing a lot. And then I'm going to attempt to jack this key up, hopefully without this flexing a whole ton, so I can get that moved up and then try to persuade it out the back side. Don't know if that's going to work, but that's where we're at right now. So let me grab my ratchet and wrench and get this tightened up. Okay, so no clue if this is gonna work, but trial and error. Sometimes you just gotta keep on trying. Unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna work. Mainly because this is just a bracket here, and only one side of this bracket, which pinches this down, and then you have a center bolt, is in there. So it's just gonna flex them down bracket. So that's not gonna work. So now we have to come up with another idea or plan, if you will. Now we have the front and the back bolt in for the bracket itself. The center bolt actually goes through the cross member itself, and it is still a little bit off, but not a ton. So we just need to finesse this a little bit until we can get that to come through. Another thing we can try to do, see if we can get this thing to free up a little bit, is actually use the tool. Oof. Yep, that was my face. Try to get this torsion key to turn. So there is a hole in the top of this cross member that has a little nub that slides into. And then it has a dimple on the bottom of this key. Tighten this up, it will actually force the key to move. Which is how you actually get the key retainer out of this slot. So because this key has dropped, we are going to see if we tighten this up, it will pull that keyway up. I don't know for sure, but there is only, and it has pulled that keyway up some. It has moved that torsion bar off the bottom more up towards the top. Now, is it going to be smart for me to beat on this with this torsion key under pressure? Probably not. Is that exactly what I'm going to do? You bet yourself. Why? Because I'm running out of options. So, we have got that kind of centered. Now it's not going to try to mushroom this out at the bottom, and it should be able to somewhat slide that way. Is there a chance when I start beating on this that this is going to let loose, break? Of course, I rented this tool. You beat the crap out of them. That's what you do with them. If I break it, I just bought it. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? So from this position, I'm going to get some heat underneath here and start heating this keyway up. You don't really want to heat torsion bars, but we're at a point where you gotta do what you gotta do. So you grab your trusty propane torch. Notice I'm heating the key and not the torsion bar. Hopefully, obviously that heat is going to spoil because it's metal and that's what happens. But we're going to let this sit under tension with heat on it for a few minutes. See if we can't get some expansion going on to possibly get this to break loose and move. Now you are going to see some smoke coming off of it. I've been spraying this thing down with penetrating oil like every day and letting it sit. It's just burning off that residual. Not something you really want to breathe in a whole heck of a lot, but we are at a point where I have to get this done, and I will do whatever I've got to do to make that happen. So after I let the key heat up for a little bit, I'm going to take that torch and I'm going to heat up around the end of the torsion bar up in here as well. See if we cannot get this thing to move, drop, pop out, something. So, while you guys sit there and patiently watch that thing heat up, I'm going to go grab something to drink. sorry for that. For all of you who saw my last post video on here, my wife passed, so I had to reply to a couple of messages and stuff. So things are a little hectic, as you can imagine. Okay, so now we're going to heat up around this actual torsion bar a little bit. Most people will tell you not to do this. I'm of the, you know, I gotta get this done kind of mindset. So, is it the right thing to do? Probably not. Is it what I'm going to do to try to get the outcome that I need? Well, obviously you can see. So, this has been a ongoing thing I've been trying to get done for quite a while now. So we have gotten to the point where sometimes you got to be unconventional and just try to get stuff going. So I am going to poison the air and also spray some lube on here. And I'm gonna go heat up the front end of the torsion bar as well. Alright, now we just try to take this thing to Pound Town and see what breaks first. And I'm betting it's going to be my patience. Alright. Well, I'm going to be obnoxious and turn the compressor on and see if we can't air hammer this thing a little bit.